What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com, live on Facebook Monday afternoon. We're getting close, only a few days away to the start of Green Bay Packers training camp. We've got anything and everything having to do with the Green Bay Packers at PackersNews.com for you, including a preview of Aaron Rodgers taking his dive to kick off Shark Week tonight, Monday night. Don't miss that. But as I am wont to do, I thought I'd jump on here and see what's on your minds, see what's going on with Packers fans everywhere. The Packers announcing earlier today that they will be having a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a brand new Jerry Kramer exhibit that's going into the Packers Hall of Fame. That ribbon-cutting ceremony is in the atrium at 10 a.m. on Wednesday if you are local and looking to attend. Hello to everyone in the comments section. Lovely to see you all. Ohio, in the house, what's up? Joe, hello. Simon, hey, thanks for joining us. Only a few days away, everyone. I know the excitement is palpable. I know the off season is almost over. We're in the home stretch here. You can feel it. The Packers players report tomorrow. They move into the dorms there at St. Norbert. So I'll tell you what, fam, 24 hours away. Get that man a contract, Devin. I'm sure they would like to. They are talking, at least, although as Pro Football Talk reported on Friday, not a whole lot of movement as of late. Albuquerque, New Mexico, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us. Hi from Tampa, Tyrone, what's up? If the defense is top 10, is that an indictment of McCarthy sticking with Dom so long? Kind of, but it's also a commendation of his choice to replace Dom. And there's nothing to say that if the move had been made earlier, that clearly Mike Pettine probably wouldn't have been available, and it would have been someone else, and who knows how that hire would have gone. So yes, you can say McCarthy waited too long. We have to wait and see really how the year and Pettine's time in Green Bay plays out. But, the timing may be fortuitous. Who knows? Maybe if they go on some kind of championship run where they win 2 more Super Bowls on the back of Mike Pettine's defense, maybe the timing was perfect, and maybe Mike McCarthy waited just long enough. You never know. Gotta let it play out. Is this the most position battles we've seen in recent years? It's funny. I was thinking, maybe not that exact thought, but I was thinking along those lines earlier today. I was going back over all of our positional previews, which you can find at PackersNews.com. Mostly because Tom just put up his overview of the secondary, the cornerbacks and safeties. And I did think, it's been a while since we've had a summer with this much kind of up in the air, not just, starting position-wise, but just roster-wise. I think there's a lot of youth on this team. Clearly, obviously, you look at the wide receivers that were drafted, you look at the youth in the secondary, the right side of the offensive line. There are lots of areas for competition this summer. Whereas maybe in the past, especially in the recent past, there have been a lot of that has been set. So yeah, I think there is a little bit more up in the air this summer than there have been in years past, and frankly, that should make for a much more exciting training camp. Oh, and I didn't even mention the backup quarterback battle that's set to ensue in a couple days. So yeah, I definitely agree with that kind of overview of there seems to be a lot more opportunity for competition throughout the roster this year. Has there been any news on Donnerson? He seems like an athletic beast. He does indeed, Tyler. Nothing of note as of yet. We've only gotten to see him in shorts, and that doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. But we'll start to get those answers on Saturday when they put the pads on. Remember, those first 2 days of practice are padless due to the collective bargaining agreement. Boy, oh boy, it's happening. It's close. All eyes on J.K. Scott this camp. Brian, you better believe it. When you spend a 5th-round pick on a punter, he better deliver. Any notable undrafted free agents? Sam, give me about a week of training camp practice. Start to answer that question. Who's our number 1 running back? Dennis, I would think right now would be Jamal Williams. Most likely with Aaron Jones suspended for those first 2 games, that will solidify that decision. He is by far and away their best pass protector back there. You saw what he can do last year as far as breaking tackles. He's a powerful runner. He's actually surprisingly better in the passing game than I remembered during the season. Going back and looking at the year again, he was pretty strong as a receiver as well. So you combine all that with the Jones situation. Montgomery, I think, will be used much more on third downs and as a passing back. I think Jamal Williams will have the gig at least initially. Do we pick up any more veterans? I doubt it. You never know. The Giants, however, signed Connor Barwin today, so you can all stop asking about Connor Barwin. Los Angeles, what's up, Jess? What's your thought on the Packers-Jaguars Super Bowl call, Craig? I think it's, makes a lot of sense on paper. Tony Romo was asked about it in mid-July, and he gave a possible matchup, and I think that certainly could happen, but there's so much set to go down before they even kick off week one, let alone get playoffs and Super Bowl pushes. But on paper, sure, it makes sense. It could happen. If the game goes how they want, you don't need a punter. That's a fair point. Did Jamal Williams look way faster at the end of the season, or was that just me? That was not just you. I think he was more decisive and his vision improved, and I thought he did a much better job of being patient with his initial burst, because I thought he actually hit the line pretty fast early on in the year, especially that Bears game when he was called into action prior to getting hurt. I thought he was running a little bit over his pads out in front a little bit too much. Like he was in such a hurry to get to the hole or get out, out of the backfield, etc. He was running into the line quite a little bit, and his vision was kind of letting him down. I think the second opportunity he got after Aaron Jones got hurt, he really found his patience, and he showed a little bit more vision than he had previously. Certainly than he had in either the camp, preseason, his that first foray of the season, etc. And that made him hit the hole a little better, I think. And he was able to see cutbacks a little better. And I think that caused him to get through the hole quicker, which made him appear faster. But I don't think he picked up speed, so to speak. Did that make any sense? Probably not. It made sense in my head, though. Blake Martinez taking the next step. Ryan, we'll start to see this week. I've said often throughout the summer here, clearly the production was there last year. Guy took a big jump. The thing I think he has to improve on the most is just finishing those turnover plays. He had so many plays where he has an interception in his hands and he drops it, or he has an opportunity for a strip, sack, fumble, etc. opportunity, and he just misses. If he can start creating turnovers to go along with his incredible production when it comes to tackling the ball carrier, then I think you're going to start really having to talk about him as one of the upper echelon linebackers in the game. But I know a lot of people started bandying about his name because of the numbers that he produced, and he certainly was productive last year. But a lot of those tackles came downfield. He also missed a whole lot of tackles. If he can just eliminate some of that, and like I said, start creating some turnovers, then that will be, to me, a sign of a guy who's taking it up yet another step. Who are the starting safeties come week one? Oh, Brandon, that's a good question. Obviously, Clinton Dix will man one spot. And I tell you what, I would not discount the battle between Kentrell Brice and Josh Jones. I tend to think it'll be Jones, but we'll see how Brice battles there. And Marwin Evans could be a dark horse. You never really know. But if I had to choose right now before they've snapped the ball one time in training camp, I would say Josh Jones. What will be the more intriguing camp battle, O-line versus D-line or corners versus wide receivers? Whew. Probably O-line versus D-line just because they get after it, and it's some of the only hitting you really get in camp, and it's not even big-time hitting, but it's some of the most physical stuff you get to see in camp. But that's not to say that those wide receivers versus the corners isn't going to be worth the price of admission, which is free, but you know what I mean. Who's the best D-lineman? Ooh, that's a good question. Probably Mike Daniels, but Kenny Clark is close. He's closing that gap quickly. Wide receiver 2 will be. Oh, you mean 2 as in the number 2? Well, it's really not, it's not like Madden or fantasy football. They're not 1, 2, 3 ordered. Um, you know, Clearly Davante Adams will be their go-to guy, the first guy in a lot of the progressions. He'll play mostly on the outside, though I think you'll start to see him slide inside a little bit, much like Jordy Nelson did later on. And then Randall Cobb clearly will be in the slot a lot of the time, especially when they're going 11 personnel and running 3 wide receivers. But then, the big question is the spot opposite Adams. And I think most likely that'll be Geronimo Allison to begin. We'll see how the rookies come along, but Allison's put the time in. He's got the trust of the quarterback. It's hard to see someone supplanting him, at least early on in the year. Malcolm Mitchell, well, I saw the reports that the Patriots are shopping him. I'd be absolutely shocked if the Packers gave up any kind of draft capital. Maybe if he's cut. Even then, though, I doubt it. Guy's coming off a lot of just real injury frustrations there. And they just drafted 3 wide receivers. I don't see them giving up another draft pick to go get somebody else coming off a bunch of injuries. Is Graham starting in the preseason? Good question. Probably not a lot early. I think you'll see him more as the preseason wears on. Traditionally, that third game is where we see a lot of the frontline guys, but I don't think you'll see a ton of Jimmy Graham in the preseason. Who takes the Mr. August role that's open with Janice out of town? Great question, Ben. TBD. Stay tuned. Why play Jones at safety? His only good game was near the line. Yes, in a completely different scheme. With a group that is clearly left town being unable to unlock his potential. Yes, the one big game he had was against Cincinnati where he did play down in the box quite a little bit. That doesn't mean he can't play safety. Doesn't mean he can't play out in space. He did so last year, and he is the first to admit he played rather poorly, especially as the year wore on. But I'm very interested to see how Mike Pettine tries to unlock that talent. When is Rodgers' contract going to happen? We'll find out, David. It could be in a couple days, could be in a couple months, could be in a year. We'll see. I like how Brice hits. He is a big hitter. He definitely showed signs of physicality his rookie year. I think it got him into a little bit of trouble last year trying to lay big hits rather than tackling the ball carrier to the ground. You saw a few instances where he lowers his head, he's going for a kill shot, and he misses the tackle. If he can clean that up, I think he's got a good chance to, at least compete for that starting job. Any concerns on the offense bothering you? Just the right tackle position. Belaga is completely up in the air, and who knows who wins that battle behind him. Why do you think the Packers passed on Barwin? I think they really like Reggie Gilbert, and they really like Vince Beagle, who they got, basically a redshirt year from last year. Barwin was a free agent last year, and they didn't sign him. I don't see how a year of wear and tear makes him, and one more year of age, makes him more attractive. I think they're going to go with their young guys. And I do think, you got to remember this scheme is pretty different in regards to what those outside guys are asked to do. And with the bodies they have inside, the addition of Wilkerson, Kenny Clark, Mike Daniels, etc., they're going to be able to control the line of scrimmage. Obviously the question is, where does the pass rush come from? But I do think Mike Daniels and Kenny Clark are going to be asked to get upfield a little bit more than they were under Dom Capers. What are your thoughts on people saying the Packers are just Rodgers and have no talent otherwise? Well, I think it's obviously, when you talk about the Packers and their talent base, there's zero question that there is talent there. There's, Davante Adams is talented. David Bakhtiari is very talented. Mike Daniels is very talented. There's plenty of talent. But especially the staff that was in place did a very poor job of maximizing that talent. Now, obviously, ultimately, that falls on Mike McCarthy, and he has now failed twice to barely keep the ship afloat that first time around. And then last year, it just was an absolute disaster with Brett Hundley. So, there's zero doubt that the perception of the Packers is not going to change anytime soon, simply because Rodgers plays at such a high level and they look completely lost when he's not there. And there's not much that McCarthy or the Packers can do about that. there's, that's a lot of that is driven by, national perception, national writers / analysts who are, maybe watching a game if it's on national television, seeing the highlights later the week, etc., whatever, and then they drive that narrative, and that's what people run with. And like I said, I understand it. You look at the evidence before you, from a 30,000-foot view, Rodgers has gone down twice, and they found, really floundered both times. So that is going to be the perception. And like I said, there's not much the Packers can do about it at this point. Is Montravius Adams a forgotten man? Andrew, I don't think he's a forgotten man. He's a mystery man. They don't know what they have there. The guy got hurt the very first day they put pads on last year, and that basically wasted his rookie year. He's a lot like Vince Beagle in that regard. They don't really know what they have. We don't know what they have. So it's not so much that he's forgotten. He's just a mystery. We don't know what that is yet. We don't know what kind of game he has. Is there any plans for the guard spot that was held by Jari Evans last year? Dan, I believe Justin McCray will get the first shot there. And I expect him to win that job. But I also think they'll give Lucas Patrick a shot. They'll give Cole Madison a shot. There'll definitely be competition. Is it time to say goodbye to Big Mike after this year? Dennis, stay tuned. If they win a bunch of games and go deep into the postseason, probably not. Will Geronimo Allison be the Packers' breakout player? It's a good possibility, Ron. I think they probably spread the ball around a little too much for him to really truly be a breakout guy. But I do think he'll be productive if given the opportunity. Ooh, Belaga or Tauscher in their prime? Who you got? Wow, that's a really good question. Yeah, you got to go with Tauscher just because he's a lot more available. Obviously, there was that 1 year where he went down early in the season and down in New Orleans. I remember he got hurt. But for the most part, he answered the bell week in and week out, whereas Belaga has missed a whole lot of time. As far as their play on the field, I think Belaga's probably technically better from just a pure technique standpoint. But man, Tauscher got it done. Week in and week out. That guy was a scrappy, battling, right to the whistle, every single down in and down out. So that's a close one, but I'd probably take Tauscher. What are your thoughts on the Rodgers versus Brady argument? I try not to partake. I have my opinion, which is that I think Rodgers is physically the most talented quarterback in the league. Clearly, Brady is the most accomplished and does certain things that Rodgers doesn't at a higher level, a better level. But ultimately, they play for different teams. They play with a different supporting cast. They have different coaches. It's folly. It's absolute, talk radio drivel, mostly. That's my real thought on it. Can one of our corners be like Revis was under Pettine? No. They can certainly rise to a higher level than we've seen most corners play in Green Bay the last few years. But asking them to be Revis, anywhere even approaching Revis's level of play, as Mike Pettine himself said, when, especially that year, that stretch 2008 through I think 10, you put Revis on one side, you just forget it. It was like having two guys because he absolutely shut down whichever number one receiver they were facing that week. And you could just completely game plan around not having to worry about having a safety over the top. It's basically gave you an extra body. That's not going to happen in Green Bay. I mean, there's certainly talent there, don't get me wrong, but no one even comes close to sniffing the talent level and the play level that Revis did. Better Packer player with a injury-shortened career, Sterling Sharp or Nick Collins? I'll go Sterling Sharp. I mean, Nick Collins is a really good player, obviously, no question, but Sterling Sharp should be in the Hall of Fame, even with an injury-shortened career. He was incredible. Ralph Connor Barwin is not a possibility. He's signing with the New York Giants. Will our offensive backfield be mostly a one-man show, considering the suspension of Jones? I doubt it. I think they'll still continue to mix it up a little bit. You'll see Montgomery back there. You'll see Randall Cobb back there. See Ripkowski back there. I think Williams will get the bulk early on, but it's only 2 games, and once Jones gets back, they will certainly be mixing it up as much as they can. No problem, Matt. Do you think Daniels can be effective as a 4-3 end? I don't like him in a 4-3 as an end. I wouldn't cast him in that role. When Jones comes back, who gets released? I have no idea. Let's get to a 53-man roster first. You guys got to slow down. How different will the Packers offense look with Jimmy Graham and Mercedes Lewis? Sherwin, I would guess maybe not significantly, but noticeably. I do think that Lewis especially gives them a lot of flexibility. Obviously, Jimmy Graham is a great receiver. He's going to be split out a lot. He's going to be catching balls and turning heads, and Rodgers is undoubtedly going to utilize his talents. But I think Lewis, his blocking ability, really helps open up both the run game and the play-action game in a way that perhaps they haven't been able to utilize these last few years. Not to mention the fact that he himself can be a weapon in the passing game. I think a lot of that gets discounted because he's such a good blocker, but it certainly should help them get a lot more multiple on the offensive side of the ball. Will Daniels, Clark, and Wilkerson be on the field together a lot? That is a great question and something I myself am interested in finding the answer to. I tend to think it will be dependent on the matchup, somewhat, dependent on who they're facing, what kind of offense, offensive style, etc., personnel, what have you. I doubt it'll be a whole lot, but I do think we'll see more three-man lines than we were accustomed to seeing under Dom Capers, and those three should get the bulk of those snaps. Do you think Kaiser will be the backup and Hundley gets released? The odds are good on that one, but, got a whole camp battle to play out yet. I think you got to let that one ride. Over under 20 TDs at the tight end position? 20 TDs? They didn't have one touchdown they had one touchdown from the tight end position last year, and 20? Whew, give me the under, is what I'm trying to say. Packers defense wouldn't be a concern if Hundley didn't chew gum. That's the perfect place to leave it. Thanks a lot, everyone. I'm going to take off right now. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to your question. They're all great, and I'm so sorry that I can't get to all of them. Make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest. As I mentioned at the top, Tom Silverstein's look at the secondary just went up. Anything else having to do with the Green Bay Packers, it's there at PackersNews.com for you. Barring any news overnight, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thanks a lot, everyone.